Hello everyone, my name is Boulevard with GiantSlayerTV, highlighting for you Tristana Fae, aka Demacia Yordles in Arms, aka whatever name your circle within the community has decided to call this deck. This is a great deck for both ladder and tournaments and highlights one of the least played champions since the release of Beyond the Bandlewood, Tristana, who plays a key role in what I believe to be her first Tier 1 deck to date. Now the general strategy is going to be the same as all previous iterations of Yordles in Arms decks. You go wide, you play the Yordles in Arms, you overrun your opponent. Of course, the advantage you're going to have as a Demacia variant is the ability to rally with Golden Aegis, letting you find yourself in situations where you can Yordles in Arms to push through your opponent's defenses, and then rally for the win while the buff is still active, or stagger back-to-back power turns. The difference between the Tristana variant and some of its predecessors is that you have more self-replacing units than ever before, as well as more cost reduction than ever before, allowing you to have incredibly explosive early games that snowball things without the need for one of your finishing power cards. So the standardized version of the deck for the time being is 3 Tristana, 2 Gnar, and 1 Teemo. You might be wondering, okay, well how did you settle on Teemo instead of any of these other one-cost Bandle City champions? Well, Kennan's pretty much out immediately, doesn't really do anything that the deck wants to be doing. Not only is he not elusive, but also we have 2 Ionia cards in the deck already in Blastcone Seedling and Grandfather Fae, which is going to help us push towards Yordles in Arms and Buster Shot activation, so we really don't need another Ionia card in the deck. Now, Fizz is a 3 of in the Piltover and Zon variant, but, you know, not even a 1 of in this variant, and the short answer as to why is Poro Cannon. It's a great zero-cost spell that's going to allow the PNZ version to proactively give Fizz elusive when your opponent thinks that you're tapped out, or dodge a pokey stick or something like that. And we don't really have anything comparable in this list. Facesprout is the closest, but you're not hanging on to Facesprout as long as you're going to hang on to Poro Cannon in the other variant, because you're pretty much slamming this down as soon as you have a Gleaming Lantern on field to try and get that big unit out. So Fizz just doesn't really fit in. And on top of that, they get to play Fizz's Playful Trickster because they're playing 3 copies of this card. We have our rallies elsewhere, so we're not really worried about something like that. And then, as a very minor thing, but something that feels worth mentioning, when you're going for the generation of multi-region followers, either through Loping Telescope or Bandle City Mare, Grumble Slug is a pretty good option a pretty good amount of the time, whereas Aloof Travelers is something you're not going for as often, so you will sometimes feel that 4th region coming in as the Teemo, whereas if you had played the Fizz and then grabbed a Grumble Slug, or it might influence your decision into something else to turn on your Yordles in Arms or your Buster Shot. Very minor thing, but something I did want to mention. Those are the champions, so when we look at the followers in the deck, the one thing you're going to notice is that pretty much all of them are self-replacing. We have Grandfather Fae that's going to make an Owlcat, Loping Telescope's going to make you a card, Mare's going to make you a card, Gleaming Lantern won't make you a card, but the 2 cost reduction does make it more than worth it, especially given, you know, the presence of Facesprout in the deck. The one thing that kind of sticks out here is Blastcone Seedling. You know, it's not replacing itself. Why is this fitting into the deck? With all of the manifestation available, the name of the game is flexibility, and barrier and impact are some of the more important keywords that we can have and the choice to choose from. Also, with either Tristana or Grandfather Fae on board, the Blastcone Seedling will be up 2-3 attack, really pressuring a block from your opponent if you pick barrier, or running over a chump blocker with impact. Keeping control of the board is important to set up Yordles in Arms, so barrier on defense is also a great way to stop your opponent's attacking, and it doesn't always just stop one attacker. Sometimes if you throw down a barrier unit, your opponent suddenly doesn't want to attack with even as many as like 2 or 3 units because they don't want to just lose one in order to push the damage on you. Now this deck, like most Yordles in Arms decks, is not playing great on defense, so having something that can come down and just have barrier does make a lot of sense here, and it is, I would say, definitely more worth it than something like Brightsteel Protector, because it is dual region and because it is a Fae, and you just want to worry about getting as many units on board as possible, being able to overlap on the reduction from Gleaming Lantern and Bandle City Mare just really makes the Blastcone Seedling an important addition to the deck. I also quickly want to touch on Facesprout since we're talking about how many cards in the deck self-replace. So when we go to all regions, type in Fae, take out the champions, you're not going to get a perfect idea of what you can grab because there are some cards that don't fit in here, like Bandle Commando, Fae Blade Twirler, Babbling Balladeers, Trevor Snoozebottom, Fae Guide. These are all cards that can't be created because they are Yordles, but things that can be created include 3 cards that you already main deck: Loping Telescope, Grandfather Fae, and Blastcone Seedling. Now, we already know how good these cards are. They are in our main deck for a reason. Assistant Librarian is a pretty good hit, especially if you can actually connect to the Nexus with it and either search up another Facesprout or resolve Pokey Stick, Sharpsight. You've got some really good spells that the Assistant Librarian can pull for you, but it is more likely that it is just going to get chump blocked every time.
Mostly you are just looking for one of the cards that you already main deck, be it the, really any of these are going to feel pretty good, and it's pretty likely that at least one of them will be offered up to you. Outside of that, I think that the attached cards are really good as well. Rainbow Fish, Quick Quill, and Papercraft Dragon. Papercraft Dragon actually probably being the worst one, because you don't have Overwhelm, you don't have a lot of elusive in the deck. The difference between double attack and quick attack is going to be pretty irrelevant for what you're looking to do, and because you are getting +1/+1 from the Facesprout, Quick Quill will be +2/+2, and of course Papercraft Dragon will be +3/+3, but I think that the +2/+2 for a much lower mana cost than the Papercraft Dragon is going to be just fine. And then of course Rainbow Fish, a great pickup because it is elusive, and of course something like Tristana can get very big, or even a Hungry Owlcat can usually have up to 4 attack if you head out the Grandfather Fae and the Tristana. You slap a Rainbow Fish on that, all of a sudden you have a 7/3 with Spell Shield and elusive. Are you kidding me? So, be it one of the cards you already main deck or one of the attached units, you've got some really, really great options waiting for you in Facesprout. Even Tasty Fae Folk if it's something you absolutely need. But the chances that you are going to get at least one good option is insanely high. I have never felt bad about playing the Facesprout in this deck. And then finally, we kind of need to talk about Tristana, who has been pretty inarguably the worst Bandle City champion since the expansion released. Why is she now seeing play? Why this deck? One of the big reasons is all of the Poppy nerfs. With only 2 attack, Poppy misses quite a few things in the deck with her buff, including Gnar, Gleaming Lantern, and any Fae that was summoned while Grandfather Fae was already on the battlefield, as well as most things grabbed from Facesprout. Tristana is also going to be less susceptible to removal because she's so easy to level in this deck, giving her 4 health more often than not. In fact, when looking at the numbers for leveling her up, you have 9 units that create multi-region followers: Bandle City Mare, Loping Telescope, and Grandfather Fae, 6 of those being multi-region cards themselves, making Grandfather a huge step up from Bandle Commando. Facesprout also has a high probability of offering at least one multi-region follower. With all of the aggression that you can push out in the early game thanks to your cost-reducing units like Gleaming Lantern and Bandle City Mare, in the later stages you'll find Tristana's impact to be a great way to close out games, especially with access to rallies, giving you back-to-back impact triggers in the same turn when she can get as high as 4 or 5 impact with very little trouble. Now, as for the matchup charts, there's not a lot of data on the deck right now as it's fairly new and players are still spreading the data thin by playing multiple different champion combinations, including taking out Teemo for Fizz, just playing Tristana and Gnar, putting Yuumi in the deck. From the evidence we do have, however, you're pretty in line with the other Yordles and ARMS decks that have existed, which is to say that you're beating things that are slower, like Darkness and Bandletree, and losing to things that are fast, like Scouts and Draven Rumble. That said, you are beating your good matchups harder, and losing to your bad matchups by a smaller margin. The high amount of manifestation also allows a good amount of agency and keeps the deck feeling fresh each time you queue it up. So that is going to do it for this little deck tech here. Hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and let me know down below just what you think of this deck. Is this the best iteration of Yordles and ARMS we have seen to date, or is this just another fart in the wind, an overhyped deck that shouldn't be playing Tristana? There's got to be a better variant out there. Please let me know what you think. Again, my name is Boulevard for GiantSlayerTV. Thank you so much for watching.